At Egypt's border with Gaza, boxes of much-needed food and medical aid turned back by Israel languish on trucks. The exasperated drivers and aid workers complain they're turned away for everything, from minor packing and paperwork issues to heavy scrutiny over possible dual military use for a range of goods. They also accuse the Israeli guards of being on limited working hours, despite the overwhelming need beyond.
I'm carrying baby milk. This is the second time I've gone in and come back. They tell you, for example, that the pallet doesn't have a sticker, the pallet is tilted or the pallet is open from the top, so this is not a reason at all for us to return it.
Hundreds and thousands of trucks enter the Israeli side here from the Egyptian side. The crossing here in Egypt is open 24 hours, as you can see. It does not close, but the obstruction is from the Israeli side. Every day they take 30 or 40 trucks in and tell you that we are closed. And that's it. And the trucks come back again, as you can see.
More than 100 aid organisations, including Oxfam and Medecins Sans Frontières, have signed a joint letter today calling on Israel to stop the weaponisation of aid as starvation deepens. Israel strongly denies it is limiting aid supplies. When the trucks do make it through, the growing desperation of the crowds is increasing the danger for all. Some truck drivers report being blocked and attacked en route to their drop-off locations, further hindering their ability to go in and out of Gaza.
We face many things. People say, "You run over us. You do not stop for us." We've been instructed to stop 1 kilometre away from the army so they don't shoot at the children and the people trying to get the goods. The people who are pushing themselves on the trucks, they're the ones pushing the children and young men under the trucks.
The IDF says it's reviewing deadly incidents during aid distribution. Still on Wednesday, at least 25 Palestinians were shot and killed. Adding to the struggle, the summer weather. Gaza, like much of the Mediterranean, is currently experiencing a heat wave, with temperatures consistently in the mid-30s.
Summer, very hot temperatures, and our water consumption is not like in the winter or other seasons. There is difficulty obtaining water, and in addition, it's undrinkable. We are forced to give it to our children because we have no alternative. It causes diseases for us and our children. It is contaminated water.
We drink it and suffer from stomach cramps. We don't know the source of the water, but this is what we find. We live in tents, and now it's August, a very hot month. Outside the tents it's hot, and inside the tents it's hot, so we're forced to drink this water wherever we go.
On Wednesday, 114 Palestinians, including 31 children in need of medical assistance, were evacuated from Gaza via Israel to Italy. They'll be treated by specialist doctors in Rome, Pisa and Milan for severe injuries, amputations and serious congenital diseases. Around the world, from London to Mexico City, vigils have been held for journalists slain by the IDF. Al Jazeera correspondents Anas al-Sharif and Mohammed Koreke, camera operators Ibrahim Zaher and Moamin Aliwa, and their assistant Mohammed Nufal. A sixth journalist, local freelance reporter Mohammed Al-Khaldi, was also killed in the strike at Gaza's Al-Shifa hospital. In Tel Aviv, Israeli journalists have also protested against their targeting. The Committee to Protect Journalists says at least 186 have been killed in Gaza since this war began.
By coming here, I hope to get across the message that there are Israeli journalists who care about what happened to our colleagues in the Gaza Strip, that want the war to end, and that are concerned for safety and media freedom of all journalists.
Without journalists, it will be even more difficult to cover the next chapter in this conflict. Under pressure from far-right members of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government, the IDF's Chief of Staff, Eyal Zamir, has approved the main concept for a new offensive to take full control and seize Gaza City. Netanyahu has revived calls for Gazans to voluntarily relocate to other countries and is reportedly in talks with already war-torn South Sudan, having been rebuffed by the likes of Egypt and Indonesia. Palestinians and human rights groups have rejected any relocation as a violation of international law. For now, the millions internally displaced in Gaza wait in the stifling temperatures for the IDF to mobilize once again. Well, we're joined now by Olga Cherevko, a spokesperson for the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. Olga, thank you for joining us. Firstly, can you give us an update on the situation on the ground in Gaza at the moment?
Thanks, Vinny, for having me. You know, I've been, for the past few days, I've been going around various hospitals across Gaza, in the south and in Gaza City, looking at the situation there. And it's really shocking to describe it. The most hospitals that are still open and are still struggling to operate, they are operating way over capacity. There are some that are operating at 200% and 300% bed capacity. There are patients in every corridor, on the floor. Some surgeries are being performed on the ground, and the number of malnourished children that I've seen in these past few days is absolutely shocking.
We've been seeing it's been very difficult for trucks to cross over the border at the moment. I know that the main bulk of aid distribution has been handed over to the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, but you are still getting trucks in for food aid and medical aid. What are your drivers reporting about getting through?
Well, we have, of course, continue to pick up as many supplies as we can every day. I have been on multiple convoys where we would go to the crossings to collect these supplies, and we have been doing this every day as much as we can. But we continue to face many, many impediments that we had before. And we have said previously that we face massive delays. When we go out on these missions to collect supplies, we have to basically coordinate every move with the Israeli authorities, and that can take hours. So right now, our missions still take sometimes 12 hours, sometimes 16 hours, 18 hours. And of course, that makes the whole system very inefficient. And the routes that we are given by the Israeli authorities are still the same routes. So many of them are congested. There are very few of them that are provided. Sometimes they're completely impassable. And of course, they remain very, very dangerous. And then to add to that, of course, we are still, even with the slight increase in the volume of supplies that are entering, we're still nowhere near where we need to be to provide and meet the needs of the people here.
And once again, on Wednesday, people trying to seek aid were shot by the IDF. What is going wrong, particularly at these Gaza Humanitarian Foundation sites where people are being penned in very cramped conditions to collect aid?
Well, no one should ever have to face the risk of taking the risk of their life to survive and to find food. And the fact that our hospitals are now accepting mass casualties almost on a daily basis from people going from aid seekers, basically, when they see no other option to go either to these non-UN militarized sites or when they're waiting around for aid to come through along the routes where our convoys come through. And this is completely unacceptable. The fact that people continue being killed and injured alongside these areas. And I've seen many such injuries going to some of these hospitals. Just a few days ago, I spent about 1 hour in Nasser Hospital. In that hour, there were 5 injured and 3 dead bodies brought in to the hospital from these locations.
Now, Gaza, like many places bordering on the Mediterranean, is currently experiencing a heat wave, temperatures averaging this past week around 35 degrees Celsius. That, we understand, is forcing people to drink more water inevitably, but that water is pretty contaminated at this point, and there's been a rise of sickness. Is this something that you've been documenting?
Of course, the public health issues connected to hygiene and water access challenges, they have been only increasing. And of course, with this heat wave that you mentioned, it's been really quite unbearable with the heat, with the humidity. And of course, many people are living only in tents, and some of them are really difficult to call tents because they're so worn out and tattered at this point that it's barely a shelter at all. And of course, with that to say that no shelter materials have been allowed to enter since the 2nd of March. And this is adding to the complexity of the problem because people are literally sleeping in the streets now.
And in terms of what's coming next, it's said that the chief of the IDF has now agreed to the government's plans for a new offensive to, quote unquote, take full control of Gaza, to seize Gaza City. How worried are you and your colleagues about that, not just for the Palestinians themselves, but also for NGOs and aid workers like yourselves still trying to operate in the territory?
Extremely worried, of course, and not just us, but it's weighing extremely heavily on everybody's minds. And the people that I've spoken to in Gaza City in the last couple of days here, they tell me that they are terrified to even think about what might happen. And we have the population, most of the people have been displaced so many times they've lost count. The entire population of Gaza is basically on the brink of famine. And any continuation or expansion of any military operations would have absolutely catastrophic consequences. We need a ceasefire. We need the opposite of what these announcements are about. So this is really a critical and urgent situation.